Welcome to the District 3 Candidate Forum for the City of Appleton. My name is Jean Roberts and I am President of the League of Women Voters of Appleton. We are sitting or standing on traditional, ancestral, and contemporary lands of Indigenous peoples. Where I sit and stand, these are the homelands of the Menominee people. In addition to the Menominee Nation, there are 10 other federally recognized Native American sovereign nations in Wisconsin, as well as the brother town that is not yet recognized. Today, we honor the Ho-Chunk Nation. The Ho-Chunk are one of the ancient occupiers of this geographic area. Ho-Chunk roughly translates as people of the big voice or people of the sacred voice. Their history says we have always been here, and evidence, including oral history, backs this up. Many of the effigy mounds across Wisconsin are attributed to the Ho-Chunk ancestors in tribute to the many spirits that dwell here. We honor them and their ancestors for their unwavering love and care of the land. By acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional land of these sovereign nations, we honor with gratitude the land itself and all of the winged, two-legged, four-legged, many-legged, and the water peoples who have stewarded the land and water throughout the generations and for generations to come. Thank you for your interest in this forum and for your support of the democratic process. This is for voters to get to hear what the candidates have to say. It is not a campaign event and not a debate. We stand for civil discourse. The candidates understand that no candidate information is allowed to be displayed during this event. This Zoom forum is being recorded and will be made available on both vote411.org, the League's Webby Award-winning website, and the League of Women Voters of Appleton website. It is also being live streamed on Facebook. We ask all those watching this forum to refrain from making any partisan comments on the League of Women Voters Facebook page. Any partisan comments will be deleted to conform with the League of Women Voters nonpartisan policy. Any questions sent to the League's email will be sent to the candidates, and their answers will be added to the candidate voter guide. The League of Women Voters of Appleton owns the copyright to any audio or visual recording to these events. Unauthorized videotaping falls under the rules of the FCC, which requires that a forum must not be edited and must be broadcast in its entirety, either live or reasonably soon after it takes place. In addition, the League of Women Voters of Appleton candidate forums must not be referenced as a source in any campaign materials. While there is not a sign language interpreter, there will be closed captioning available on the YouTube video, which will be available through the League of Women Voters website. Prior to tonight's forum, residents were invited to submit questions to the League email. Some of those questions will be heard tonight. These questions have been sorted before they were sent forward. This was not to eliminate questions, but rather to group them into like categories so that we have the opportunity to ask as many questions as needed to cover a variety of topics. We have a timekeeper. The League has always found this process to be a good means to keep us on track and moving along. It is not meant to cut people off or diminish the importance of a response, but simply to use our time wisely. We trust that our local Appleton candidates will respect these constraints. And finally, we would like to acknowledge the candidates from District 3, Brad Firkus and John Foss. We are all grateful and thank them for their willingness to run for office and serve their community. Jacqueline Klimaszewski is Director of Voter Service for the League of Women Voters. Jacqueline has planned and organized this forum. She will be presenting the questions to the candidates. Jackie?
Thank you, Jean. Let me add my gratitude to the candidates for your time this evening to share your viewpoints with our voters. And I want to thank all of you out there watching this for caring enough to be informed when you cast your votes in the election on April 6th. I have the pleasure to moderate this forum tonight, and I have questions, as Jean described, some from the League and some submitted from interested citizens ahead of time. All questions submitted, asked and unasked, will be sent electronically to the candidates. Their written responses will be on the league website for you to view and use in a voter's guide when you're deciding who you're going to vote for. For each question, each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to respond, and that will be monitored by our timekeeper, Julie. The time may be altered for longer or more involved questions, and we will alternate which candidate replies to the questions so they both have a chance to be first and last. The first question we will get started with will be candidate Foss and then candidate Firkus. And that order was selected by the order that they were on the ballot. And I think that happens through a flip of the coin somewhere down in City Hall, doesn't it? So for your first question, please introduce yourself, give us your background and why you are interested in serving on the City Council seat for District 3. Candidate Voss?
First of all, thank you to the League for setting this forum up and giving me another opportunity to connect with my neighbors in District 3. Of course, I'd rather be in person, but we need to adjust to keep people safe. It must have been no small task to work with everyone's schedules to put this all together, so thank you. For those of you that don't know me, let me introduce myself. I'm John Foss, and I'm running for alderman to keep Appleton a safe, affordable, and desirable community for all residents. I've lived in Appleton for 10 years now. I grew up in central Wisconsin in a lower income family. I was the first member of my family to go to college. I got there through hard work, sacrifice, and dedication. I graduated from UWO with a degree in political science, then joined the Army to help pay off my loans and gain some direction in life. I served 2 deployments to Afghanistan and was stationed in Germany and at the NSA outside of DC. While I was still in the Army, I married my wife and we decided to move back to Wisconsin to start a family. We chose Appleton for the same reasons I'm running, to preserve it as a safe and affordable place to live. After leaving the Army, I obtained my master's of public administration and have worked in government agencies at the federal and local level, including as a city administrator. I'm currently a realtor and inspiring real estate investor. As we've all seen, our property taxes have gone up in recent times, and there are a lot of projects on the table that could greatly impact Appletonians' tax burden. I'm running to make sure that the people of District 3 have a voice in these decisions and that we are responsible stewards of their tax dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Firkus.
Thank you, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for putting this together. I'm echo John's sentiment that this is definitely no small task to make this happen, and really appreciate all the work that goes into setting this up. I am Brad Firkus. I am your current alderperson in District 3. I am serving my first term on the council. I serve as the chair of the Municipal Services Committee. I serve on the Community and Economic Development Committee and the Human Resources Information Technology Committee. I've also served on utilities and the Fox Cities Transit Commission. I am a father and husband to 3 school-age children. So definitely been living and experiencing a lot of what a lot of other families have with the past year. Outside of council, my other job, I am a software engineer. Been doing that for about 8 years now. It's a job that requires a lot of problem-solving skills and tackling challenges big and small, various sizes and various complexities. I've enjoyed serving this last term, getting to know my neighbors better and getting to know my neighborhood better. I've worked really hard to be a good communicator and understand the issues that the city faces. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity to keep serving and focus on putting people first, putting a greater sense of community into our community, working towards smart growth that adds value to our community, and working on affordable housing and transportation. Thank you.
Okay, and we will start with candidate Firkus on this round and then go to candidate Foss. What is the value of a library to a community and who does it serve?
Library serves the people of the community. That is what it is first and foremost about. The services can be anything from what a lot of people think as far as reference materials, books, computers, things like that. But it's also all the different programs and services, things for young teens, youth, children, families that move to our city. I think a library is one of the most important pieces of social infrastructure, things that are both built and not built that add value and build that sense of community and build those bonds. As we start looking at this project of the future of the library, I think we need to make sure that our library meets the needs of our community, not only now, but also for many years to come. And I think the project that we're looking into right now at the location it's at will provide a lot of value for the people in this community and the surrounding neighborhood. Thank you.
Candidate Foss?
Thanks. Well, the library is a big issue in Appleton right now. Libraries play a vital role in the quality of life for a healthy, educated community. Whether it's been a stack of scrolls in Alexandria, or books on a shelf, or a bank of computers, residents in communities throughout history have benefited from a local library. And there's no doubt in my mind that a library in Appleton is a valuable resource to the community. I definitely feel that there are inadequacies in the current library that need to be remedied, and funding needs to be appropriated to address those issues. Whether we need an entirely new library is the big question. As I stated in my opening statement, that taxes have increased considerably in the last 5 years. And a new library will necessitate the need for property taxes to rise even more. I get it. The library building right now it's ugly, it's boxy, it's 80s. But as much as I want a new library to show off to the rest of the world, I'm not sure if it's completely necessary to go brand new, but instead improve the current library and fix the problems that need to be fixed. Like I said, we are stewards of the taxpayers' money. And, I'm thinking if the people want this library, we should hold a referendum and let the people have a say. Thanks.
Okay, we'll start with candidate Foss, and we'll continue on this library and budgeting question with, according to an article in the Post-Crescent, the city has budgeted $2.4 million this year for library design services. And it has also identified that $12 million will be needed in 2022 and again in 2023 for construction. Do you support this level of expenditure for library construction? And please explain why or why not.
Well, currently the library is not on the budget, and well, neither is the U.S. Venture Project, but that's another issue. And we're getting close to our self-imposed 20% debt limit. That means 20 cents of every tax dollar that you give to the city through your tax payment is going to debt. That's not healthy. We know in our households that's risky as well. We can't keep taking out credit cards for the city. Now, we know we need some debt in order to complete projects, just as we need a mortgage on a car loan. But we need to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money and keep the city of Appleton an affordable place to live for homeowners and small businesses. I believe we need to let the people have a direct say in this issue and hold a referendum on the library that will directly affect their wallet. If the people choose to build a new library, that's great. It's what the people's choice is. If not, we need to respect that choice as well. Yes, we elect people to make these decisions, but this is a big decision, and it's important to listen to the people. Thanks.
Candidate Firkus.
Thank you. Definitely those numbers, it is quite a sizable investment for our city, but I think for what we're looking for in a library, those numbers are reasonable. As far as our debt within the city, we are well below the state mandated levels for debt ratio, as well as our own self-imposed debt ratios, which are only a fraction of what the state imposes on a municipality. While the library's main focus and the thing it must be successful at is serving the people, a project like this is also an opportunity for that neighborhood and adding value to that neighborhood. A library that is both attractive and functional will help that area develop even better and will return an investment on the taxpayers. If the neighboring area around that library starts to build up more, if that ends up being a magnet for more housing, more businesses, that's great. I'm not going to say that that investment will pay for itself, but that will definitely help out. And that's something I think we really need to look at when we look at the projects in the city is, are they adding value to our community as well as serving the functions that they're supposed to serve? Thanks.
And we will start with candidate Firkus for this next question. If elected, will you support municipal efforts to prevent the further spread of COVID-19 under existing laws as supported by the League of Wisconsin Municipalities?
Yes, I would, but I'm very optimistic with the way things are going, with the way cases are going down. New news today about the availability of the vaccines for COVID-19, that we're going to quickly get to a point where I'm very optimistic we're not going to have to worry about as many of these measures. I know it's not going away in weeks, it's not going in months, but I think we're really on the right path right now with the way things are going in the state and in this country to get to something that feels a lot more like normal, and probably very soon, I hope. Thank you.
Candidate Foss.
Thanks. I agree with Brad that I'm optimistic as well. We're getting close to the end of this pandemic, well, hopefully. And we don't want to do anything drastic that'll turn us toward the wrong direction. I think the city of Appleton has done a great job informing and educating the public about the risks and the need to exercise caution when out in public and at schools, when shopping, at work. One thing I believe we could improve on is educating the public on the importance of leading healthy lifestyles, eating healthy, exercising, creating strong immune systems, not only for COVID-19, but for all illnesses. I think if we continue to educate the public about hand washing, social distancing, vaccinations, we'll continue to move towards the end of this and return to normal, hopefully. Thanks.
Okay, and we'll start with Candidate Foss. Housing, how will you support ordinances and or other measures, including updating the comprehensive plan to ensure affordable housing in Appleton?
Well, like I said when in my intro, I'm a realtor, so I have an interest in housing, of course. There's definitely a need for affordable housing, and I also believe there's a market for affordable housing, and there are investors who want to build affordable housing. Block grants can help offset the costs of the infrastructure needed to build this type of housing, as opposed to market rate and luxury housing. I do support creating zones where housing can only be built that would classify as affordable. But I also think that the housing market can dictate this on its own. If there's a way to make money, there's always going to be investors. But we as a city government need to ensure that all codes and safety standards are being followed.
Okay, Candidate Firkus.
Thank you. Affordable housing is one of the things I've been really focusing on. I've been working with our community and economic department since last summer about an idea that recently became a resolution I introduced along with my colleagues, alderpersons Meltzer and Fenton, for allowing the building of accessory dwelling units on property that already has housing. It's not a silver bullet, and it's not what's being proposed as, but it's one way to let the market build more affordable housing units within the city of Appleton. It's very light and gentle infill, should not be as disruptive to neighborhoods as, say, big redevelopment projects with apartment buildings and things like that. In general, I do support, building more housing, whether it come as apartments, whether it come at houses, whether it comes as, different ideas like these ADUs. I think the more we build, the better off we are, because we certainly have the demand in this community. I think people have seen how high, especially in the last 5 years, how housing costs have risen. I know, just kind of looking on Zillow at some of the properties around here, since we just moved to this particular house, even though we've been in the neighborhood for a couple of years, and it's going up quite a bit. And same thing with rents too. I've heard from people that have said that their rents have raised dramatically in the last couple of years. So tackling affordable housing is very important and very relevant. Thank you.
Okay, we'll start with Candidate Firkus. This is a housing question, and I know that District 3 is just off of the downtown. It's on the other side. But the downtown is affects all of us. So this question deals with how the city can ensure that affordable housing is available downtown so that people can shop and walk to work without the use of a vehicle. They've seen that their houses have been demolished over the past few years around the Y and other areas. And so is there a way that the city can control the tearing down of affordable housing? Should there be a requirement to replace affordable housing if it's demolished? What are your thoughts?
That's a good question. I think we have to be kind of careful about what kind of restrictions we want to throw down there. Be a little bit careful about how entangled we get into some of those matters. But in general, I think we should be continuing to work. And I know our community and economic development staff work hard to try and make some projects happen. We've had a number of housing projects different apartments. I know most of them are market rate, but I know projects like the Crescent Lofts are bringing affordable housing to downtown. And I'm optimistic as we continue to work, we're going to find more opportunities to build more affordable housing downtown and work on making it a more walkable, more pedestrian friendly part of the city. Thank you.
Candidate Foss.
Sure, and I agree with Brad on this. Just living in Germany, there are just things in Germany that I appreciated. Places were walkable. There's efficient public transportation, and there were all types of housing available to all sorts of people. But with Appleton, it's a little different. With the houses that were torn down by the Y, some of those were in pretty bad shape, and we need to make sure that all landlords and homeowners are following codes, so we are safe, and so that tenants are kept safe in these houses as well. So we need to be careful about following codes and policies. It is kind of different to put affordable housing downtown because it's a high level area of it's tough to build downtown because it's expensive. So I do agree that we need to have zones where there's places that affordable housing can be built, but there are some places that it just can't, and that's just the way it is.
Okay, and we'll start with Candidate Foss, and we'll give you 2 minutes for this one because there's a couple different aspects to it, and there are citizens who feel this is about racial disparity, and those for whom it affects, this is a real issue. And so I want to hear your thoughts about dealing with racial disparity in Appleton housing, policing, and other opportunities.
Sure, and I think this all goes back. It goes back to listening. We have a lot of people in this world who are willing to speak and speak at people, but listening is a trait that's hard to come by. If there are groups or individuals who feel like their concerns or their issues are not being heard, we need to sit down and talk with them. When I'm elected, I'll listen to all my constituents and take their ideas into consideration, whether they supported me in this election or not. I think the city of Appleton has done a great job by addressing some of these situations, but there's always room for improvement. But I believe everyone has a right to speak their mind and to be heard, and I'm willing to listen to address any problems that may remain. Thanks.
Okay, Candidate Fergus.
Thank you. On this topic, it's definitely a very complex topic, very lot of aspects to it, but I think from a city level, the main things we can do is continue to build those relationships. Like John had said, continue to listen to people, more input, the better. Keep working on things like recruitment, trying to get more faces and more voices into, say, even city government. That's one thing that we can control is recruitment and hiring and making sure that we have a diverse workforce that mimics the city we live in. I think another thing that really works out well, and I know it's not so much a city thing, but it's all the different events we have in this city that allow people to come together, cultural events, anything from like Mile of Music and things like that, where you get a lot of people out there and you start to see other people and you meet other people and you build those relationships or make those observations that can help knock down the prejudices that people have. I think those things can be really effective in building a stronger, better community. Thank you.
Okay, we'll start with Candidate Fergus. Will you support increased, accessible, and affordable public transportation within our Appleton community and link that transportation with other communities?
Thank you. I think transportation is a really important aspect, especially the affordability of it. Owning a vehicle just isn't getting any more affordable, and you have different segments of population that either can't afford cars or maybe driving just isn't getting as convenient as it could be. As far as connecting with the other communities, I know our Valley Transit system has been working on trying to get a commuter service between Appleton, Green Bay, and Oshkosh, and I think that would be a huge first step to getting more of a regional transportation system in place. But another aspect of that is it's great if you can get from one state to the next, but you got to be able to get around those cities. I know from working on the Fox Cities Transit Commission that they've been working with consultants to try and come up with better ways to improve routes and hopefully at some point here improve frequency of routes, which is a big factor in whether or not people will choose to use the bus. If a bus only comes by once an hour, it's just not a very convenient way to get around. But if you can increase that frequency, then you're going to make riding the bus a lot more attractive option for a lot more people. Thank you.
Candidate Foss.
Yes, thanks. Well, I believe public transportation is it's vital to the economy to give citizens an opportunity to get to work, to get to school, to wherever they need to go. Like I said, having lived in Germany for 2 years, I began to appreciate public transportation and not having to rely on a car. There are benefits to public transportation for people who have a car as well, who just choose to use it so they can read, get some work done, or talk on the phone, whatever, while they're getting where they need to go. I'd love to see a passenger train that goes from Green Bay to Milwaukee someday, that has buses that feed into that system. But I think here the system needs to work and it has to be efficient. I'm willing to sit down with Valley Transit and study ridership and determine if we're utilizing the best routes that help serve the most people. And I really appreciate that Valley Transit goes through all these neighboring communities in the Fox cities. And yes, I'd like to see a better link to Oshkosh and possibly Green Bay. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll start with Candidate Foss. Will you support more online services for our community, including non-social media communication systems accessible to residents so that they can participate in resolving governmental problems?
Sure, and I think this all goes back to communication. Like I said before, we just need to be able to listen, and if it's through online programs, we need to take advantage of that. It's a different time now. Everything is online. We don't know when we'll be able to go back to normal. We need to embrace what we have here. So if that means reaching out to people through online programs, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to connect with the voters and the people of District 3.
Candidate Firkus.
Thank you. I think more online services is a great idea. There are some costs with that, so I think we have to kind of prioritize what things we want to pursue first. The most affordable or sometimes free options are using the things that are already out there. We do use social media. We do have things like that. Being able to make use now of Zoom and Teams for public meetings, both the city council and the committee meetings, has made it so that, and it's something I hope we continue to see even after the pandemic, because there are people that haven't been able to participate in local government because either their schedules don't work, they have childcare needs and they can't just leave their children at home, or late at night. But the hours of the meetings sometimes that if they want to participate, it can be challenging. So I think as we use the tools that are available and look at the opportunities of what things we can prioritize and maybe make living in the city a little bit easier and a little more convenient for those that want to use those tools. Thank you.
Okay, we'll start with Candidate Firkus. Have you viewed the climate resiliency videos and recommendations of the League of Women Voters of Appleton and the Phase 1 of the city's climate task force? What actions should the city prioritize to deal with these concerns? So we're talking about ideas for ensuring a transition away from fossil fuel, reducing waste going to landfills, and center equity sustainability plans.
Sure, thank you. The city has done a very good job with sustainability up to this point. They have the Green Circle plan. That plan is on our city website that shows a lot of the different things that the city has been working on for quite a while. So we have already been a leader in a number of things that maybe aren't the most visible, most attractive things, but when you're working on things like energy efficiency in buildings and gain efficiency out of your heating and cooling system, that does make a huge difference in fossil fuel consumption. Going forward, I've been hearing quite a bit from people throughout the district and throughout the city about composting or trying to find other ways to divert what we're sending to the landfill. And with tipping fees going up in a landfill that's getting fuller by the year, we're going to have to start looking at some of these options, maybe looking at doing small scale pilots and seeing how it works and learn from those experiences. and try and build, a solution that really works well for our city without going all in and, spending a lot of money and, making expensive mistakes by going too far too fast. But in general, I think we can do a lot of different things, really trying to promote greener lifestyles and things like through affordable transportation, biking, and walkability. I think those will also help out with the environmental concerns. Thank you.
Candidate Foss.
Thanks. Yes, I have reviewed the League's videos on climate preparedness and resiliency. I didn't get through all of them. There were a lot, but yes, I did review some of them. And I've been keeping up with the city's sustainability measures. We only have one Earth, and we need to protect it. There's no doubt about that. No one's against a clean environment. No one wants dirty water or pollution or dirty air. Of course, we want cars that run on renewable energy instead of fossil fuels, but they need to be affordable. If a car that runs on air costs $1 million, no one will be able to afford it. We can't punish people for wanting to get to work and run their businesses. We need to work towards the goal of products and fuels that are sustainable, but they need to be affordable. We're not there yet. In the meantime, education can go a long way. By having individuals contribute to this effort in their homes, by recognizing how much energy they're consuming and how much waste they're producing. These efforts should not be a punishment, but these efforts can actually save people money. But of course, we all want a greener, cleaner environment, and I'm willing to work with my fellow council members and have a green Appleton, hopefully someday.
Okay, and we'll start with Candidate Foss for this question. A question of concern to the League regarding voting. Early voting in Appleton statewide can only be the 2 weeks before Election Day, which for this election is March 23rd. Right now, it is only at the city clerk's office, and they have made adjustments for their regular working hours to try to get some evening hours. But expanding this would take additional funds, particularly for those large elections like we saw in November. Would you favor expanding this?
So I, of course, support any efforts to help people have the opportunity to vote. If that means expanding hours, so be it. But we need to determine the effectiveness of these times if we're going to change them. If schedules need to be switched to favor all sorts of working schedules, so be it as well. But people need to be assured that their tax dollars are being put to good use. So I'm willing to sit down and read some studies on this, work with other municipalities to see what works for them, what times work for the people. So we just got to make sure that the times and changes that we're doing are going to benefit more people.
Candidate Firkus.
Thank you. I do support the idea, but I do also realize that there are resource constraints that we can't do necessarily everything and anything we want. I know also state laws have set what we can and can't do. What I think has been a real good experiment here is through the COVID-19 pandemic is the prevalence of absentee voting through mail. I think if that ends up becoming something that becomes more normal and common, that's going to help a whole lot with getting better turnout, better participation, and making it more convenient for more people. So my hope is to kind of watch what happens there with absentee mail voting in the future and see how that impacts demand for early in-person voting.
Okay, and we will start with Candidate Firkus. How can the city find adequate funding for road repair and infrastructure without borrowing?
Thank you. That has been a challenge that I've had a number of conversations of looking at different ideas on. It is right now we only repair about 1% of our streets each year. Our streets, especially like you think residential, are meant to last about 50 years. It's a problem that needs to be taken care of and addressed sooner than later. We right now are definitely in a situation where we're borrowing quite a bit for this, and some of that has been driven by the cost of this. 2021 is actually going to be the first time in a couple of years where we are going to be able to do all the projects we budget for because we can actually afford the concrete and materials and everything to do these projects. One of the ideas I've tried to look into a little bit, but it's kind of taken a bit of a back burner through the pandemic, is looking at ideas like a transportation utility, which would, if we could do something like that, and that's kind of if we can do something like that, could be something that replaces the wheel tax and takes from that idea and spreads the cost of road construction and road repairs a little bit broader than just the vehicle owners. It would be more property driven. I know one of our neighboring communities, Neenah, does something like this. They do in their own way, but I think it's ideas like that that we can look at to say, hey, how are we going to find ways to do this? Thank you.
Candidate Foss?
This is a tough issue, you know, and I'm open to a lot of suggestions, and I'm willing to talk to, you know, other members of the Common Council and to my constituents. Now, I really support the wheel tax. I do remember back when there were special assessments on properties, and it was thousands of dollars to fix a road, and I don't want to go back to that because that's a big chunk of change on your, you know, to pay for a year, within a year. Now, I know some properties were assessed at, you know, $5,000-$10,000, and that's a lot. Now, the wheel tax has offset that cost from the individual property owners, because all residents of the city of Appleton use these roads. It's not just the people that live on that road. So, you know, I'm open to dig into the budget. I'm willing to talk with people and figure out a way if there are projects that are needed to be completed and the wheel tax and the budget does not accommodate.
Okay, we'll start with candidate Foss. Will you support obtaining formula block grant funds as lobbied for by the National League of Cities to build back better this year, our infrastructure, workforce, housing, and to reduce gun violence?
Well, you know, I'm very pro block grant. I think they're out there and we need to utilize them. You know, so these block grants can help to offset the cost of infrastructure for a lot of projects. Like we were talking about with affordable housing, this can help to offset the costs that might be associated with building, you know, an apartment building, or even tearing down properties that are inadequate anymore. So we need to make sure that we're applying for these and, you know, receiving them and using them. Now, we need to make sure that all of our plans are in order. So when it is time to apply for these grants, that we have something to fall back on and to show that we have done the work already and we have a plan to use these so we can utilize the block grant in the best of our ability.
Candidate Firkus.
Thank you. I would say yes. Pursuing block grant funding is a great idea to give us a little extra boost in accomplishing things that we really want to accomplish. The only thing that really wash out with those is if there are any strings attached, make sure that the demands to accept that funding is reasonable. But otherwise, I think we should be definitely looking at any grant money that we can get to help out with more infrastructure, more workforce development, things like that. We've been able to use a lot of grant money in this past year to help with the homelessness issue that has gotten much worse during the pandemic. And without that money, we wouldn't be able to help as many people. So I'm completely in favor of accepting grant money where we can.
Okay, I will start with candidate Firkus for this round. Appleton's general obligation debt is now 20.3%, up over 100% in the past 5 years, adding over 10 million to this debt each of the last 5 years. How do you propose to help keep this important measure of a city's financial health in check and moving again in the right direction?
Thank you. What I think we need to do is continue to focus on smart growth and adding more value to the land that we already have. When we add on in a more sprawling fashion, we add on a lot more infrastructure, we stretch our services, and those bills eventually do come due as we need to replace infrastructure, or, you know, things like right now where we're looking about relocating an entire fire department. Things like that do cost money, and those are very dependent on how we build. I think if we are able to add more value to the property that we already have within the city, continue to maybe allow for some upzoning in more areas to allow to create more value. I think that can do a lot to offset and help lighten the load. It's kind of the idea of many hands make the load lighter. Thank you.
Candidate Foss?
Yes, thanks. Like I said, we're approaching, that limit of our self-imposed 20% debt limit, and that's getting scary. Just as a taxpayer, as a property owner, I noticed how high our taxes went up, and I want to make sure for the people of District 3 and for the city of Appleton that we're making sure that they don't increase that quickly and that fast and by that much in anytime soon. So we need to dig into the budget. We need to just make sure that we're spending responsibly. So I think people are squeezed. People are trying to be squeezed more money out of their pockets, especially right now during COVID. People are out of work. Businesses have been shut. Small businesses haven't even made up for that lost time that when we were shut during the lockdown. So I just don't want to be squeezing taxpayers anymore right now. So we need to be very responsible with our money and make sure that we're not increasing the tax burden on them in a time of need.
Okay. Candidate Foss, we'll start with you. To appropriately represent constituents as alderperson, a candidate must have a strong work experience to fully understand the daily struggles of our working class and what they endure. Please share your real-life work experiences outside of politics that you will use to formulate decisions in this role. Please be specific.
Sure. As a former supervisor on the county board, I know the time commitment that is needed for this position. As a realtor, I have much more flexible schedule to work with to balance the needs of my family and the needs of my constituents. That's kind of why I chose to be a realtor. I know during budget time commitment to the Common Council will need to be an almost full-time position. I'm willing to take the necessary time needed to fulfill my obligations to the citizens of this district to make sure that their tax dollars are being well spent and in their best interests. I've always had a drive to serve, whether it's been in the military or on the county board or on the Common Council. I just finished my second non-consecutive term as vice president of my veterans organization, Desert Veterans of Wisconsin Fox Valley, where we raise money for needy vets in the area and provide needed camaraderie to fellow veterans. And I also teach catechism for 10th graders at St. Bernadette's. I just have the will to serve my community in any way that I can, and I'm very excited to serve in this role.
Candidate Fergus?
Thank you. As far as my work experience, I talked a little bit about my current work experience, being in IT as a software engineer, and the skill sets that I need for that I think translate pretty well into serving the community. But before that, I've held a number of jobs. I've been a dishwasher, I've been a bartender, cook, spent a summer working at the Neenah South plant as a machine operator. I even had a job when I was younger setting pins at a local bar. They had a major bowling alley, and I would sit back there on Thursday nights and set the pins up after the bowlers threw their smaller grapefruit-sized balls down the lane. So one thing I've been doing, I've been holding one job or another probably since I was about 10 or 11. So one thing I have is a lot of work ethic, a real motor to go and just keep working and work hard for the people I'm representing. And, I believe we have to be a city that works for everybody, not just white collar people, not just the people that are doing well. It has to be a city that is concerned about all sorts of folks. I look just even at my family. My brother is an electrician, now more of a project manager, but he's been an electrician for many years, coming through the trades. My dad, he's retired, but he was a machine operator for many years. And my mom, she was a cleaning person. She worked at different facilities, medical facilities, things like that. And, those weren't always the highest paying jobs, but she did them, and they're hard work. And, those are the people in my life. That's my family, and those are the experiences I'm familiar with. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll start with Candidate Fergus. If you want to reduce or cut spending by the city, what would you cut and by how much?
Thank you. The last 2 years, if you've watched any of those budget meetings, as long as they are, and then, they may not be the most exciting thing you can watch on a Saturday afternoon, but the word you constantly hear is status quo budget. The reality is, and I know people are frustrated with tax rates as they are, we are really running our departments at, status quo, just hold the line. Our leaders have been working very hard at trying to, fit within the constraints of the budget, but we are running a pretty lean operation. A lot of what gets criticized, I know, is our capital improvement projects, and we do have to be good stewards of those and make sure that the projects we do pursue cut expenses or add value to our community that make our community more valuable and more desirable. Really, I can't say anything for certain is like, this is what we need to cut, that's what we need to cut. I think we're on pretty lean grounds as it is. And we just need to work harder on trying to find ways to keep providing the services we have and add value to our community. Thank you.
Candidate Foss.
Thank you. So this is kind of a tough one, and I'm going to kind of sidestep it a little bit, just because I'm not in that role right now. So it's tough to say what needs to be cut. I have looked over the budget and I've paid attention to the Common Council's meetings, but it's hard because I'm coming from the outside, so I haven't dug in to see what needs to be cut. So right now, I'm very happy to live in Appleton, and I think everything's running great. And I'm proud to be an Appletonian. So I'm, when I do get elected, I'm definitely going to look into the budget to see where things need to be cut. But right now, it's just hard to say, because there isn't anything that I can put my finger on right now that I think that just needs to be cut out of the way. Of course, there's going to be things where we can reduce spending, or we can increase spending, or all sorts of situations. But it's just tough to say right now until I'm actually in that position and able to dig in and jump in with both feet.
Okay, we've got two more questions, two more rounds here to go. We'll start with Candidate Foss. What would you like added to quality of life for Appleton residents in general, and for District 3 in particular?
Added to city government, or
Added to quality of life. What would add to?
Oh, well, just a point that I've been touching on through this whole forum is that we need to be responsible with our spending, and that's worrying a lot of residents of Appleton, that it's just going to keep going up and up and up. And I just want, when I'm elected, I just want to assure the taxpayers that I'm going to be working in their best interest. There are little things here and there that I'd like to see done within the city of Appleton, like a beautification plan where we could adopt a median, adopt a roundabout, or adopt a roadside where businesses and families and individuals could landscape a median or a roundabout. And there will be a little bit of cost for the city, because we could put up a plaque saying this roundabout was landscaped by ABC company or whatever. So there are little things like that. I'd like to see Wisconsin Street turned into an uptown district, so we can rehabilitate Wisconsin Street to have some more housing options down there, some more businesses, and to help the businesses down there, just so we have another district within the city that is like downtown, but might have a different vibe to it. So there's a lot of ideas that I've been have been going around in my head, and I'd be willing to share those with anybody who'd like to talk about it.
Candidate Fergus?
Thank you. This is kind of a tough question, because District 3 does have a lot of quality of life things that people really can enjoy. We have some great parks. We have 3 parks within the district, Dirk Schaefer and Colony Oaks. We have a number of bike trails, like the Newberry Trail and the CE Trail, that cut through a good chunk of our district. We have a pretty good start of bike lanes. It'll definitely be a lot nicer once Newberry Street is finished this year. Be definitely a smoother ride for those of you that bike on that street. Probably one of the biggest quality of life things I hear about is really traffic, and not so much like traffic congestion, but traffic noisiness, speeds, things like that. So I think what I'd really like to see is, as road construction projects come up throughout our district, is we try and look at those and make sure that some of our busier corridors are a little bit more friendly and a little bit more safe for the residents that live and commute around those areas, that walk around those areas, and just make sure that we're doing what we can to make sure that the quality of life everywhere within the district and the city is as good as it can be.
Okay, and so our final question that we'll start off with candidate Firkus, that we'll close with is it's your opportunity to explain to the residents in District 3 why they should vote for you.
Sure, thank you. I've really enjoyed these last 2 years. I've really enjoyed the experiences. I've worked hard. I've tried to be a good communicator, regularly post on a Facebook page. I've started doing a newsletter where send that out about once a month to anyone that I've got the email addresses for. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to always add more people that want to, or take you off if you are kind of sick of those. But really, I look forward to the challenges and the opportunities of the next couple of years. I think we've got a bright future, and I think if we work hard and put ourselves into it and try and focus on building a stronger community and build those community bonds between residents of this city, we can keep a good thing going, and I'm hoping to be a part of that. Thank you.
Candidate Voss.
Well, thank you very much. And again, I'd like to thank the league for putting this on, and I'd like to thank Brad for coming on too. This has been a really cool experience, and it's a way for both of us to connect with the people of District 3 and people throughout the city. I am asking for your vote on April 6th because, I'm willing to listen to all people, whether you're a liberal, a conservative, or a moderate, whatever it is. I'm willing to listen to you. We might not agree on everything, but I'm still going to take your concerns and your worries into consideration. And I'm going to apply that to the way I vote on the Common Council and what I do in this position. So I think we have a really great city here. It's a great place to raise a family. It's a great place to work. It's a great place to live. And I want to make sure that continues. And that's for all residents and for all small businesses, because the small businesses are what make this community run. It's the heartbeat of this city. And I want to make sure that everybody's being heard. And again, I thank you all for watching, and I'm asking for your vote on April 6th. Thanks.
Thank you. Again, to both of you, candidates for City Council District 3. And I do have to thank a lot of members of the league who helped make this forum possible. We've Jean and Julie and Dave and Barb and Shirley, Brian. We are an organization of volunteers, and we do this because we are very important to us to have this civic opportunity for people to hear your views. There are some slides of some upcoming forums. We have 2 more forums this month yet. So District 5 is coming up, and then Calumet County Circuit Court Branch 2, which is a new position. That will be next week on March 18th. Also, there are some voter timeline reminders that I want to make sure we get out to everyone on the next slide. So March 17th is next week, Wednesday. Online voter registration is open until then. After that, you need to go to your clerk's office, or you can register to vote on election day. But remember that if you're going to be doing this on election day or going into the clerk's office, you have to have proof of residence as well as your ID. Online absentee ballot requests, go to myvote.wi.gov. It's very easy to do. And of course, you can call the city clerk's office, and they're super. They will help you out in any way possible. We're suggesting that you get those mailed in a week before, just to prevent any delays. So that would be March 23rd. And in-person absentee voting will start Monday, March 23rd, and that goes until April 2nd. Please check with the municipality for specific times if there are any adjustments in the times to later in the day for those who can't get there by 4:30. And one more slide. All of these recordings are available on our website, leagueofwomenvotersappleton.org. All of these will be up there. The voter guides usually take about a week. I have to give these gentlemen time to answer in writing to those questions and get them back to me. And then I will put that voter guide together and we'll get them up on the website. Also, if you are requesting an absentee ballot and you need a witness to help you with that, you can contact the League at League of Women Voters Appleton at yahoo.com. We know what the laws are, what the rules are, and we know that there are folks out there who live alone and don't always have access to someone who can do the appropriate witnessing for their ballot. So we would be happy to offer that service to you if that is something that you need. Also, a reminder, if you want to check your registration, check your polling location, in-person absentee ballot voting and tracking those absentee ballots, all of that stuff is on myvote.wi.gov. And for nonpartisan voter information, vote411.org is a place to find out about the candidates. And again, I want to thank the candidates, Candidate Furcus and Candidate Foss, for being with us. We really appreciate the time that you've spent with us this evening. I'm sure the voters of District 3 do as well. And so I'll wish a good evening to all of you, and we'll hope to see you at our future forums. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.